Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
Good morning, folks. I've always meant to thank you, Nick, for starting this podcast. It's got me through this midlife crisis. It's kept me off the streets and the campus of Louisiana State University.
Wow. Yeah. Amongst other things, right? It's kept you off the mean streets of Atlanta.
Yes.
Pimping yourself out just on the street
Yes.
corners, during these tough times and hard times.
Bad Street, Atlanta, GA.
That's right. And further down the block you went, the worse he got, right? If you're looking, anyway, I'm not even going to go down there.
If you're looking for any frame of reference, you probably won't find it here.
Mm-mm. Not here in the least. Hey, before we get down the rabbit hole, look, we're not, we want to WrestleQuest.
Yeah.
Drop this week.
I can't wait to play it. I've been so busy. I can't wait to start it.
Yeah, man. Look, obviously, we kind of were kept quiet a little bit as far as going into it, but I had a test copy of it that I've been playing around on the PC. It is available on all consoles. The major consoles, I guess. The Xbox One Series is S, blah blah X, blah blah blah. Nintendo Switch, PlayStation's 4 or 5. But you know me, we're PC gamers more than anything. Yeah. So it is available on Steam for $29.99. So make sure you're picking it up and checking it out. It's not your typical wrestling game. It's very, just check it out. Well, I did share it on our social media. I shared the trailer, so people can kind of get a vibe of what it is. It's a great little it's almost a borderline RPG adventure game.
Oh,
kind of the best way I can explain it.
Like
great
Fallout,
story.
Like Fallout.
No, nothing like that. It's almost, it is an old school graphics kind of game. Somebody was like, "Oh, it doesn't look like a game that you." No, it's not. It's totally different. Very casual RPG wrestling twist with a story. So check out the trailer and give it a look. It's on all our social media. I shared it across all the platforms, so you can check it out. But WrestleQuest, $29.99 on all major platforms. Check it out, man.
Hey. Did you check out Ahsoka last night, Nick?
I have not had a chance. I was going to, but we were dealing with that stuff in the house, so that and so I didn't get a chance to get around to it. Yeah. Hopefully, I was going to get to it this afternoon. We are recording on Wednesday, guys. You guys know that, especially if you're a Patreon or a YouTube member. You'll get that later today. I'll be dropping it, and of course, it releases the show every week on Thursdays. But all of the people on our YouTube channel who are paying members behind the paywall and Patreon get the show early on Wednesday. YouTube.com. Just search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, Tapped Out Podcast Network, and of course Patreon. Tapped Out Pod, is where we can be found as well. Like the page, subscribe to the page, turn your notifications on, all that good stuff. Man, and become a member there behind the paywall, and you won't miss a thing. So, But man, how about let's dive into some big? I didn't see this coming. We joked a couple weeks ago, right? Writer strikes happening. What's The Rock gonna do? What's John Cena gonna do? Apparently, John Cena's like, bug it, I'll go back and pop up on a random SmackDown and wrestle on the Superstar Spectacle in Indy while I'm on a break.
I gotta find work.
Now, listen, in all fairness, I'm guessing this probably was kind of already in the works. But here's the thing. I had that conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, however, the writer's strike's kind of been a known thing that it was coming. So, yeah, it could have been in the works for a while because the rumor of the strike had been going on for a while. So
that deal for India has been going on for a while. Also, that deal for India has been a huge thing that people are. I don't even think people know the full impact of that. They've been getting Jinder Mahal and his faction. I can't even remember what it's called. Ready for that. They're going to get millions of dollars for going over there. They're going to build a market further that's growing huge.
Well, what's crazy, you bring that up, Myron, is not too long ago on Jeff Jarrett's podcast, he discussed that.
Yeah.
That India is just a massively untapped. I mean, when you talk about just the sheer population of that country, that how if you could get a foothold in there, like just the base you could build, and I think that's kind of what they're going for is, listen, if there's one thing WWE's is all about, it's about profitability, growth, worldwide growth, because you could make the argument how much growth is left in the U.S. Is all of the growth everywhere else in the world at this
You
point.
have to tap every single market you can in 2023. You've got competition now. You have to be able to move out in front of them at all times. You've got to find new markets they haven't got to if you want to continue your superiority.
And if you're doing that, who better than to be that face than John Cena, who already has a worldwide, who
would you recognize as a face of WWE?
It's Q rating. They call it a Q rating. Yeah, it's like if you put a picture in front of a bunch of people, who's this? Now, arguably, yes, you would want it to be The Rock first, arguably, and I'm going to say that. But if two, you would want it to be John Cena if you're talking about down the road. And if Rock ain't coming, because I heard Brian Gewirtz say he thought it'd probably be a bad look for Rock to go to wrestling, with the strike going on, as much as he's in Hollywood now as a Hollywood guy, even though the two things are different. But he does, by the way, hint at, I don't think it'll be like forever before we see him back in the WWE. And I was like, oh yeah, no kidding. But with Cena's return, look, what's your over under? Okay. SmackDown somewhere between 2-1, 2-5 is kind of their wheelhouse on a given week. You think it's a 2-5 when Cena's there?
It's a 2-7. Okay. It's hunger. People are hungry for wrestling right now. Wrestling as at the best point it's been in the last 10 years, maybe 20 years. You've got two legitimate companies. You've got higher contracts than ever. Okay. You've got shows selling out in England. You've got streaming contracts coming up. You've got world travel. Okay. You actually have big legitimate stories going on that aren't clickbait. I think we're at a high time for wrestling. I think Cena can move the needle on a Saturday, especially if they time it right. Okay. We're coming up into what? Payback. That's going to be here before you know it. If I'm not mistaken, September 2nd. There's some rivalries that they're going to solve at Payback. I think that's going to be entertaining. Might be some better things in SummerSlam. Looking forward to seeing what happens. Might be more match focused instead of Gaga. We'll see.
Well, I know in the India show they're gonna, use some Indian talent, so it'll kind of give it a home feel, feel to it. But again, the importance of John Cena on there is just the drawing power. Bring out somebody that they like, oh, megastar. Somebody so big that it's even beyond wrestling. So I like the vibe of it. And of course, I guess Cena's got to have 1 week hype in. Yeah. Because you got to give him an opponent. I mean, who is that? I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, I'm not going to say it's The Rock, but The Rock is due to pay a favor. Okay. His daughter apparently made her singles debut last night on NXT. I'm going to have to see how that happened. I'm going to go back and watch it later today. He's going to have to pay him back for that. Okay. He's been an absolute hero, though. He gave a quite substantial donation to the strike and to keep those people in money and in income while the strike was going on. Right now, I don't think The Rock can do any wrong. I think The Rock's in a very good place. Does he come back eventually? Yes. Do we know when? No. Cena, a no-brainer. I can't wait to see Cena back.
Speaking of, Cena coming back, now there's the talk of, obviously, Edge had his match on SmackDown. Last match, kind of his contract's not up till September. There's now, of course, everybody jumps into like, hey, he should go to AEW. He should just retire. He should, blah, blah, blah. I know Bully chimed in on Busted Open and said, hey, look, Edge is a WWE lifer. He should just not go to AEW. He should just hang it up and be done if he's done. If he wants to resign somewhere, resign with WWE and figure it out.
Well, I was listening to Cornette, and Cornette's got a point. He can't not listen. If Tony Khan wants to talk to him, and it's his buddy Christian Cage, he has to listen. Okay?
you got to remember, the reason Edge is in WWE at this point was because he got cleared and Tony Khan tried to get him to come to AEW, and WWE they persuaded him to come there instead. So Tony Khan's probably the only reason Edge is back to begin with.
Exactly. So think about it. Tony Khan says, "Hey, I'll give you $3 million."
I don't think that's enough
to come over. I'm just making up.
I know.
And he goes back to Vince and says, "Look, Vince, I don't want to do this, but I couldn't live with myself if I don't get something. Okay, I'm going to need at least $2 million to be able to live with myself. 2.5 to live with myself after he offered me 3. I can't walk away from $3 million. Okay, I can't walk away. Now, if you can give me 2.5, I can walk away from it. If 2.5, I'll train at the Performance Center. 2.5, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I don't want to go to AEW. But if you can't counter $3 million with something, I got to take it. I mean, that's money. That's $3 million. Edge got a family.
But how is Edge done with his money that he's earned up to now? That's the question.
He's done pretty well.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, how is it invested in it? Is his house paid for? I'm not saying, look, by the way, I'm not saying like how much is enough money. I'm not saying that argument. I'm saying if Edge is like, hey, we're comfortable, like we're good, because think about it. He's about to be in this Percy Jackson series.
How do you get that job? Exposure.
Well, he's done other acting in the past. Remember, he did some other stuff. So maybe it's his way of going, hey, look, I worked my last match in Toronto. I'm going to go off and do TV and movies for a while, and then I'll figure it out, right? Maybe I don't need wrestling right now. Maybe this was just the itch I had. Now I'm getting to walk away on my terms versus I had to retire because of the injury. There are a million reasons to say, what are the why should he choose WWE? Because look, on our notes, I put WWE AEW. How about there's just walk away period as option 3? Like the option of walking away is if he's got enough acting stuff on the table, why go out there and beat your body up, even if it's infrequently? If it's not like, hey, come to AEW, you only got to wrestle like once a month or something like that or whatever. What if he doesn't want to do that? Like, what if he doesn't want to take the risk?
If there's enough acting money coming in, okay, we'll have to see how Percy Jackson does. If we see where he's like, oh my God, does the greatest job of anybody as Ares and Percy Jackson, and he steals the show, and he starts getting more and more jobs, or he gets multiple sequels for Percy Jackson, I could see it. But right now, he's a wrestler. And right now, the people that are really wanting his services want to see him in tights, not swinging a sword. So
I'm looking at his IMDb, and he's got, well, a lot of it's video games, which I've never understood that. But he's got some, a pretty decent little IMDb, filmography there. So it's not just, I think there's the potential there, and maybe that's what he wants to do in his back end of his career. So if that's it, walk away. 2, I can give you a multitude of reasons why AEW is a great option. A, if Tony Khan is throwing, a lot of money, more money than WWE at him, and he's only got to wrestle once a month, he gets to reunite. Maybe there's a feud. Because think about it. Maybe there's a part of him that says, I want to end my career in a feud with Christian. Right? I mean,
who did he have his WWE tryout match with?
Well, I mean, him and Christian came in together. They were best friends.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is that argument. And then there's also, by the way, as crazy as this sounds, it's a whole new slew of opponents he could have that this hasn't had before. There's just matches he could have that he's never wrestled Kenny Omega, which he may appreciate Kenny Omega and want to have a match with him. He maybe wants Edge and Christian versus the Young Bucks, or Edge and Christian versus FTR, or you know what I mean. There's just an endless opportunities of stuff that he hasn't done yet that maybe he just sees it and goes, man, I could really do some cool stuff with him. Maybe he wants something with Punk. Maybe he wants something, you know what I mean? Like I said, it can go on and on and on, right? So is a great argument to it to be made. Like, it's not as simple as, he shouldn't go there. Really? I mean, I just made a case for why he could or should.
Well, the thing is about Edge, I have not heard all any bullshit drama for him. I don't know if he likes Triple H. I don't know if he hates Triple H. I don't know if he gets along with CM Punk. I don't know any drama about Edge, so I can't tell you the secret drama about where he might go. Maybe he's just a good wrestler and a guy that's been around and he's got plenty of experience.
Hey, Myron.
What?
I know this might come as a foreign concept to some wrestling fans. Maybe it's not drama at all. Maybe it's just a business decision. Maybe he gets along great with, Triple H. He gets along great with Hunter. I mean, with Vince. There is no hard feelings towards anybody. AEW just offers him a great contract, great road schedule, gives him some creative stuff he wants to do, and that he just kind of goes, hey, guys. I mean, literally goes to them and says, I'm thinking about taking this. Are you guys cool with that? And they're like, hey, man, you got to do what's right for you and your family. I mean, we understand. You didn't, you're not burning a bridge leaving.
Is Beth still under contract?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question.
Okay. I mean, do you work for a different company than your wife?
Who knows? Or maybe she's done, right? Maybe she's at home and she's just like, I'm off of the road.
Those kids were on the front row at that show. Okay, do those kids go to two different companies? Does Beth have a couple and whatever? Edge watches one of them while he's on the road with AEW.
Well, her travel schedule would be nothing. And even in his at that point, if he goes with AEW, it's not going to be a hard schedule. Now, again, my thing is I think if Edge wants to be in WWE and they're willing to pay him close, like you were talking about earlier, I think it happens. But I just think what people don't grasp is there is nothing left for him to accomplish. His dream may literally be, I want to go off and try the acting thing. I mean, we've never heard that before, right? I'm like, nobody ever just says, hey, I want to go try acting. I've been a wrestler for a long time. So maybe that's his next step. Maybe he's like, I've been a multiple-time world champion. Like I said, I just think this last run was totally Edge's. I want to go out on my terms, and that's what he's done at this point.
This is all due to Hulk Hogan. This has got a bad surf detective movie or some shit, isn't it? What was those bullshit movies he made that now makes everybody want to be a wrestling actor?
I mean, he's done it all. I mean, he started at Thunder Lips, arguably the greatest Rocky villain of all time. I mean, so, anyway. But I just think, I said, it's wherever he goes, I think he's got the right to choose at this point. And I think I think it's a no-lose situation for Edge, no matter what he does. Stay at home with WWE. Take all the creative opportunities and the financial opportunities of AEW, or go off and become a movie.
The only thing that this is going to affect is when he gets put in the Hall of Fame. Okay, if he goes to AEW,
he's already a Hall of Famer.
Oh, he's already a Hall of Famer, so it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's already a Hall of Famer, so it doesn't matter.
So, what's the big deal?
Yeah, I don't understand it. Hey, I'm going to hop the next topic. I'm not even going to go into that next topic, by the way, because the reason I want to address it, it kind of ties into the two, and then I'll plug our sponsor this week. But I know the big talk was about All In. Edge, hey, can he go to All In? Okay, we've already discussed it. His contract's, not up until September, so he's not going to show up at All In. And we're going to talk a little more about All In, but before we do, we're going to talk about our friends heading down there, right down in that Augusta, Georgia area. Ooh. I said Thompson, had a bad habit because of somebody involved. Our friends at CanaCon, right down there in Augusta. Hey, Augusta, have you heard the big news? September 30th, CanaCon is coming right there to 90 Millage Road, right there in Augusta. That's right. That's the American Legion, Post 63, right down the road. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's part of the big chunk of the festivities. Don't forget, however, at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., live concert will be by Radio Cult right there in the building as well. What's going on this year? Great stuff. including for the first time ever in Georgia. Do you remember the crazy movie back when we were kids, Maximum Overdrive? The Green Goblin head that was there, right there on the 18-wheeler, will be for the first time ever. It will be there. Yes, the original prop from the movie will be right there at Canicon. Also, look, Canicon is really famous for its cosplay championship, and for the first time ever, they're going to take it to a whole nother level. Not only will second and third place get trophies, first place will be crowned with the Canicon Cosplay Championship belt. That's right, championship belt for for the big winner. But hey, look, don't worry about it. Look, the kids are also they're not going to be left out. They got a cosplay specifically for the kids, and they will have a champion as well. And for the first time ever, there will be a Fans Choice Award, like a Fans Choice Prize. So you, the fans, will actually determine one of the winners as well. Special guests are Radio Cult, Kelly Graham, Randall Bishop, Specs Thomas, and many, many more. All of that's going down right there at Canicon, September 30th, 90 Millage Road, Augusta, Georgia. That's right there at the American Legion. You definitely don't want to miss out. Canicon 2023 is coming to Augusta, Georgia. That's right, man. Canicon 2023 right there in Augusta, Georgia. Make sure you check it out for all of you, comics and cosplay and all that. They're going to have that cosplay championship.
Rapidly approaching.
Fun. Yeah, it's creeping up on us faster than ever, man.
I'm so excited.
Look, speaking of rapidly approaching, man, All In. It's creeping up on us faster and faster and faster.
This weekend.
Is it this weekend or next weekend?
It's this weekend, Nick.
I'm messing. So
you're a pay-per-view behind.
No, I'm kidding. I was making a joke because there's two pay-per-views back-to-back weekends that were.
Well, they're going to be down the road tonight.
Yeah, while we're recording, they will be down in Duluth at the Gas South Arena. That's what they call that thing.
Whatever
now.
They call it this week.
Yeah, I think changes sponsorship so often we're like losing track, right?
Changes sponsor more than we do.
Yeah, exactly. Look, let's be honest with you at this point. I know a lot of people, it's kind of the in vogue thing to do is to crap on something and, blah, blah, blah. I just can't at this point. I'm like, the event itself is a success. Yeah. I mean, they've sold the tickets. Look, I'm not even getting into creative from a business standpoint, which is kind of what we do. Look, is it going to be profitable? I don't know. They don't have to tell us if it is or not. It's a private company, so they don't have to give us those numbers. I would find it hard. I would be hard pressed to believe it wasn't profitable with the sheer volume of tickets sold. I know there's some, like, hey, there were family packages where you could get discounted tickets if you were buying family 4-packs and stuff. But still, I mean, look, man, they're over 80,000, man. Like that's a crazy number no matter how you cut it. And I'm not trying to steal their thunder here and say, like, how crazy is it that we got one show that's sold over 80,000 and then tickets go on sale for WrestleMania, and in 2 nights they've sold over 90,000 tickets for 2 nights. So you're probably talking they've sold 45,000 roughly. I mean, because if it's both nights, I would guess the fanatics that jumped on the WrestleMania tickets and bought them like now, they're buying it for both nights, right? That's not somebody going like, I'm going to go on Sunday.
I'm going to night one. I'm going to night one.
Yeah. But still, 90,000 for 2 nights is still pretty impressive.
Yeah. I'm not trying to belittle either company. What we have here is an impressive, very, very impressive thing. This is a pay-per-view outside the United States. Okay. This is a massive leap for a new company. They're doing something very impressive, and they sold the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. $50 excited. It's a Wednesday. I have till Saturday I'm at a $40 excited right now, Nick.
So that you need Dynamite tonight in Atlanta.
Yes.
To crush it, to get you to part you with it. Because here's my argument. Because it's phenomenal. I get it. It's going to look great. I understand that. And I've sit there and said, like, from a business standpoint, I think it's a phenomenal thing they've done. From a wrestling perspective, I'm more excited for All Out than I am All In. I don't even know what the card is, by the way, really. But it's I think we joked about it. So a lot of the story is going to happen at All In, but I still feel like a borderline. It's like a multiverse show where like the main stories are going to be more affected by All Out than All In. I think it'll look cool, and there's going to be a lot of cool factors. If you had to part with your money only on one, I'm not giving you the option to buy both. I would put my money on All Out over All In, but that's just me.
I just want to see the spectacle. Okay, I'm a spectacle person. I am not a show by show storyline follower for AEW. I'll admit it. Sometimes there's gaps. Sometimes I don't like the stories. I don't want to cornet all over and be like, and just say, I don't like anything they're doing. There are things I like, but I'm not if I had to pick between storyline and spectacle, I want to pick the spectacle show, Nick. That's what I want to see is a spectacle show. It's just, that seems to me to be the one I'm interested in.
All right. Well, if you're Mr. Spectacle guy, then I'll ask you. This past week was essentially the 2-year anniversary of CM Punk arriving. And I specifically wanted to address this, by the way. Not that it's going to be that great, but I was like, this segment has been 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is when CM Punk arrived in AEW, I specifically said, I think short term it'll be a phenomenal impact, and it was. When he arrived, I mean, think about he arrived and when he was on Rampage, they were like 1 million people. Rampage hasn't sniffed hardly 500,000. It feels, in forever.
Yeah,
they did Collision.
Yeah,
remember his return, essentially on Collision. 800 something thousand. Now they're back in the 400,000. My point back then, 2 years ago, was long term. What did we think it would matter? And I said I didn't think it would matter at all.
I really want to congratulate him on amassing 3 weeks on the roster total. Okay, for someone who is such a big deal and someone who has occupied so much of wrestling news, so much of what we've talked about, so much of what everybody's talked about over the last 2 years, has he really done that much inside the ring besides sit down?
The funny thing was, Myron, when he arrived, I vaguely remember my comments being, I thought he was overrated as a wrestler to begin with. Again, not saying he's not good. I think he was overrated in the ring. Very good.
Keep him out of it.
No, I just don't think. I've always thought his impact is greater from a business standpoint than an in-ring standpoint. I've never been like a Punk in-ring guy. And the guys, by the way, that's okay. I'm not saying he's terrible. And I'm not even saying he's not good. I'm just saying he's just not, necessarily. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. So the argument, the debate would be, long term, what has he done for AEW? Some people could argue, oh, he's been a bust. I would have been one of those guys for a long time, by the way. But to play devil's advocate, has he been? From a ratings perspective, which, by the way, we have grown to come to the fact that ratings don't mean a ton anymore for a lot of reasons, and we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I really think the article we both picked out for the show, totally independently of each other, from Brian James, the Road Dog, says it better than anything else. The Road Dog, if he was going to sign one of the 3 big talents, FTR, now this is as a group, FTR, the Bucks, or CM Punk, to the WWE roster, he only could pick one of those. Who did he pick, Nick?
He picked Punk because controversy creates cash, controversy brings attention, and so yes, I understand, and that's my impact comes more from for AEW's perspective. I don't know, because we don't know this, by the way. Lots of things were hidden behind the scenes, so we don't know. But it has turned into, listen, and by the way, we had a whole conversation that maybe we should have on behind the paywall about our whole thoughts on like the Plan B story arc of AEW versus the Plan A. I don't even want to give that away on the show. But if you believe everything that you read, Collision is the CM Punk show and the Elite run Dynamite, right? If Punk isn't there to begin with, to have all of the drama, to leave, to return, do we have Collision? There's going to be a devil's advocate argument to this, by the way. Because here's my question. Part one, if your answer is no, I don't think we have a Collision if CM Punk's all of that story doesn't go there. Okay, part two of that was, do we need a Collision? Like, is there too much? Right? Is there too much wrestling for AEW right now?
They're a start. People keep forgetting they're a startup company. So sometimes when I criticize them, I get out of control like other people do, and I criticize them on a Vince level, because Vince has been doing this for 40 years, and he's on TV twice a week in prime time. They're on the week now. Well, they're on TV. Is Saturday prime time?
I mean,
8 o'clock on Saturday?
Prime time's the hour, not the day. So, I mean, it's just
okay. They're new to this. They're new to the whole thing, and on top of it, they've got great hours. So, how am I judging them? I'm judging them on a scale not consistent.
If you're one who bangs the drum, there's too much WWE television. There's 7 hours. 3, 2, and 2, right? NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. 7 hours. Is your debate that the threshold is 5 hours? Because you got 2 for Dynamite, 2 for Collision, and you got 1 for Rampage. So you got 5 hours of AEW TV. So is the magical threshold 5 hours? Oh, that's okay. Or is it not? Because I, by the way, I argue that it's too much. I think, to be honest with you, the 2 nights, 2 hours is about the max threshold that I can withstand without hesitancy. Like if Raw was 2 hours and SmackDown was 2 hours, you could probably get me to. And here's the other argument, by the way. When we're talking about the maximum for one company, the problem is there's all these other companies running it. So you're 7 hours of WWE, 5 hours for AEW, 2 hours for Impact, and start piling on your this, that, and the other, right? Then you're just kind of like, oh, and by the way, you're going to watch NWA on YouTube and Ring of Honor on YouTube and WoW when it's on and on and on and on.
Unfortunately, the amount of wrestling that's come out has pushed Impact off my schedule, has pushed WoW off my schedule. Trying to keep up with the wrestling everybody's talking about and the amount of wrestling is I can't pick up as much anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I think AEW is doing a good job proportionate to what they've got. Without CM Punk, do they still have Collision? Yes. Do they need CM Punk for Collision? Yes. Okay. It's like if the Braves during that time period had lost 2 of those 4 pitchers. They'd still have a team.
Hold on. I got to pause you because I got to back up to something you said. Do they need CM Punk for Collision? I'm going to push back a little bit, and I'm going to ask you the question. If you don't... I got to bite my tongue because this is going to sound like shit that I'm saying anyway. You don't think they could draw 450,000 viewers without CM Punk on that show?
Yeah,
I would beg. I think the show would be fine without it. I think they spiked when he returned, but I don't think they needed him for after. It's the same argument. So I'm going back to 2 years ago now. I walked us down that path to go. I think I was right 2 years ago. I think In the short term, it was helpful. In the long term, I don't think it does. If I was going to bring, I'm like, listen, man, if I'm WWE, I go, hey, Punk's contract's up. We're going to bring him in. I'd look him straight in the face and go, Punk, we're bringing you in for 6 months. We're going to run this story, and we're done. We'll pay you a boatload of cash for 6 months, and then you're out of here. Are you down?
So Punk is kind of like a fire that burns really hot at first, and you can get the most out of him. But when he burns down, he's nothing but a nuisance and a problem for the company.
No. I'm not going to go that far. I don't know. I don't know him personally. I don't know if he's a pain in the ass. I don't know if he's a pain. You know, my point being, I think he is just a big star to the masses in a short burst. If you expose him too much, I think you literally are exposing him too much. I think you get him out there, you ride that lightning bolt, and then boom, it's over.
You know, I heard he wasn't a douchebag. I heard that he is such a perfectionist about what he does that he can't tolerate anybody else that doesn't take it as seriously.
Correct. Yeah. And look, there's a part of me that admires that.
I've been that way at work before. Okay. In my career, I had been that way. So I get it. It's not a good way to make friends at work, though. It's also, you know, it didn't. I wasn't very popular with that opinion.
That is true. Well, listen, we were discussing the whole take of the ratings and the viewership, and that's come up this week for a couple of reasons. Look, football season is upon us.
I love college football.
College football starts Saturday.
Might be the only thing I like as much as wrestling. And only Georgia football. I really don't watch other teams anymore. I watch Georgia football. I can watch some other SEC teams. I don't watch national teams unless it's got a super, super implication to an SEC team or Georgia especially.
Listen, I love good football. Honestly, in my older years, I have grown to prefer, believe it or not, NFL football because at least they openly admit it's all about the money. But I just love watching a good football game. Turn a good football. I don't care who's involved. And the reason why I think that's pertinent to this conversation is, you know, Eric Bischoff addressed look, college football could be a major, major impact to the viewership of Collision on Saturdays. And I 100% agree. We were discussing it about the September 2nd episode. Yeah. Georgia plays Tennessee Martin, and you said it's a 6 o'clock game right now?
Yeah.
That would lead me to believe that game's going to air on ESPN, potentially. I don't know yet. I could probably find out while we're talking. But if that's the case, that means it'll overlap for about an hour, typically an hour, right? With I'm going to try to find this, so bear with me.
Let's not even look at national wrestling. Let's look at our independent local wrestling. One of our favorite promotions, Southern Fried, is running at 7 o'clock that night. Doors open at 6. That's not even an hour from Athens. It's 30 minutes from Athens. So imagine the traffic just headed that way. Okay? If the game's at 6, doors open at Southern Fried at 6. Nick, we may have to go much earlier and find something to do in Monroe, which is a lovely city. I've wanted to explore Monroe many a time. It's just we tend to be on a faster schedule. But it's going to affect local wrestling a lot. What did you get on a timeline for the show as far as where it's going to be?
Okay, so the good news is it's a 6 o'clock game, and it's on ESPN Plus. It's not on any ESPN, so it's on their streaming service. So it's not on ESPN. The 8 o'clock game is Clemson Duke on there, but you're going to have LSU. Look, 7:30 is LSU Florida State. So you know there are some other decent games. Alabama kicks off at 7.
Well, I mean, the only important one's Alabama. None of those other guys.
Well, but the other thing, that's still like you're going to have if your wrestling show starts at 7 on a Saturday and Georgia kicks off at 6, that's a local show. Collision starts at 8. Like, are you go? Especially the great. Hold on, let me backpedal up. The great news, the great news for Collision. Typically, the early week games, week 1 and 2, are like powerhouses versus doormats. So the game's going to be over by the third or fourth quarter. So you could turn it and start Collision if you wanted to. But as the season rolls on and the games matter more, and there's more, impact of the wins and losses on that game, I think it's going to be a pretty big blow to them, to be honest with you. So,
I mean, how many of the incels that watch AEW are college football fans?
I didn't want to bring up the fact, like, I don't know if the demographics oversight. I wasn't going to use your words. I was just going to say, are the demographics the same? I don't know. Maybe. Could be. Could not be. I don't know. We're going to find out because, listen, this weekend, the first week of college football, I believe Collision is taped. They're taping it at Gas South with Dynamite because they're going to be traveling overseas for All In. So you're going to get week 1 of college football, a taped episode. So all of the results will be out there. So, and if they're in the 450s on live shows, do you think that, I think ultimately that'll tell you. Week 1 will be a good barometer because you're going to get a taped Collision versus week 1 college football. I think it's a good indicator on what we're going to look at for the rest of the season. Because if everybody could turn around and look at it and know the results before it even airs, and they still watch, I'm like, those people aren't watching college football.
No, they're not going to watch college football all season. They're going to be AEW fans, and we know some of them. We know people that are solid college football. I'm sorry, solid AEW fans that would watch it. They would take off their mother's funeral to watch AEW wrestling. I get it. I don't blame them. That's their fans. That's what they love. Enjoy it. Don't let me being a dick slight you in your passion. I'm just doing it to get downloads. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. But folks, I worry that it will temper some of your success. I worry that you book a show this early in football. You book your biggest show in England, which, well, they don't have football there, but you're wanting a $50 pay-per-view.
But it's on Sunday, though. So you're not. That's. I just meant Collision itself. All In is on Sunday, so
I know it's on a Sunday. It's a weird time, and you're going to turn around and have another one the next week. Are you going to drop $100, Nick? Can you justify dropping $100 on 2 pay-per-views in a row?
I've already told you that I'm not. I'm not going to do back-to-back. There's no way. So
if you had to pick, though, you're going for the second.
I said all out. I go the second one, yeah.
I'm going for the first one. Maybe we could split the costs. I get one, you get the other. God, it's so hard to buy pay-per-view when I'm so used to the W Network. I'm so spoiled. The network is so nice. They revolutionized the way we watched wrestling.
It's a struggle. It is a struggle to pay $50 for a pay-per-view. I get it. Somebody tried to justify it to me and go like, yeah, but if they only do them every 3 months and you break that down into 50, it's only like 16 and some change per pay-per-view. And I'm like,
but then record, I don't get a network of all the old footage they have. I don't get all that other just access. They've got so much on
coming. There. It's coming sooner than later. I just think it's coming sooner than later.
It's going to be on the Max.
No. I think they do their own eventually. I think they'll figure it out. That's a conversation maybe for another week. But because I think wrestling content being streamed is kind of a big thing now. I think we're at a great market. Speaking of which, Myron, did you see there's a docuseries coming called Wrestlers?
Oh, yes.
It's going to be focused on Ohio Valley Wrestling. It's going to be on Netflix. I'm excited because, listen, it's September 13th? Yeah, it's the premiere date. I had to make sure I had that correct. Anything Al Snow is involved in, I'm a big supporter of.
Yes. I've read a lot of Al Snow. Everything he says makes sense. I've met Al Snow. We both met Al Snow. He sounds like a damn wrestling genius when you meet him in person. He knows what he's talking about.
What's crazy when I've had the pleasure when I went out to Rocky Mountain Pro, I sat there and talked to him for a while. At that when they were doing they did a meet and greet and they did a training seminar and all that kind of stuff, and I got to talk to him for a while. The irony that is Al Snow to me is that he will sit there and tell you like, I'm not a genius. I'm telling you shit that's common sense. They just people don't listen. Like, it's just one of those, like, it's not that hard. We always just try. And I think, is that life in general, by the way? I don't think that's a wrestling thing.
He's translating. He's translating it. That people should understand this and people should know this stuff or should accept it or figure it out. And I don't think people do that anymore. I don't think, and also you got to realize people aren't riding in a car with some of these people for 10 years or learning all these things from these people like they did. They're running around with another, they're riding around with another 4 or 5 guys that have the same amount of experience they do. They're not riding around with a veteran. They're not riding around with Michael Hayes, probably for the best, actually. Or some of those guys and figuring out the business from veterans.
But my comparison to real life, though, Myron, is what I'm saying is, how many times have you been, you're sitting there, and I'm about to hit close to home, by the way, and I'm not even going to point out names. You're sitting there, like, trying to teach the obvious. Like, this isn't rocket science. Like, you're trying to pass on the lesson, and the person that you're talking to is usually typically, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not age discriminating. It's just usually some younger person, and they're like, no, I hear you, but, and then they're like, but, blah, 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 and they give all the reasons why they think their ways, and you're like, okay, I was there. I thought the exact same way. Try to learn from my lesson, and you try to teach them, and they're like, oh, no. Yeah, you're right, but, and you're like,
Nick, I have
that's Al Snow in wrestling. Listen, I didn't want to name it out. I was just saying, but yes.
I don't try to help him. I watch him fail. Okay. And I know my grandfather stood there and watched my stupid ass fail and laughed and then told me. Now I wasn't as big of a self-centered prick as my son. I gotta give him that. He thinks he knows everything because of the internet and he's twice as smart as me. I'm 50 years old and I have made more mistakes than any human being on earth. And I've learned from them and I've listened to people. Once I learned how to listen to people because I needed to, I listened to everyone. But the thing is, it's frustrating as hell watching somebody do something when you know how to do it. Not that you just know how to do it, you know how to do it better. Just to watch them. And that's the thing. My wife, Jesus, I can't keep this thing straight. My wife won't let him just do things. She has to correct him, and they get in an argument every time. But it still comes out. He still does it his way, and it's.
But here's the thing. It's like, think about if your stepson was paying you for the advice that you were giving him, and he was still not doing it. That is Al Snow's, dilemma. It's like, I'm doing a seminar, I'm teaching these kids, and they still don't listen. Because I made the joke to him. I said, like, I watched his seminar, and I was like, a lot of the stuff is the same stuff you, like, your seminar that's on YouTube for free. And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, they didn't listen then. They're probably not going to listen now, but they can pay to do. You know what I mean? It's like, but anyway, so.
I thought about going into teaching when I come back from my semi-retirement, Nick. I honestly thought about it, but I realized I would
want to kill somebody.
I would never be able to have the patience to do it.
Yeah.
Because I never have had the patience to parent. Because even as parenting a daughter by myself for a long time, I did a good job, but she learned more obscenities than most truck drivers. It was just ridiculous. I don't see how Al does it. Yeah. He must have achieved a higher level of Zen than anyone to be able to do that.
He's a legend for his teaching across the country, but specifically now that he owns Ohio Valley Wrestling, I'm excited to see the growth.
Oh
Like
yeah, I
I
can't
think
wait.
if anybody can take a training environment and make it, because they also do a show, but the training environment and make it a Netflix docuseries, I'm excited to see Al in it. So
Yes.
make sure you check it out September 13th over on Netflix. 110% endorse that show. It looks like it's called the docuseries called Wrestlers. Let's keep it moving, man, before we run out of time. We're going to get into our indie stuff, but Myron, it's our favorite segment of the week. Every week
Yes.
when we go into talking before any of the local stuff, we want to talk about our Pro Wrestling Tees shirt of the week. This one, man, we're going really close to home. Our friends over on SHW Pod, the Southern Honor Wrestling Podcast, Gerard and Brandon and Diana, they do a great job. This is one of the shirts here that they have on their store. Make sure you check it out. Of course, you know the link. And, of course, we will share that link on our all our social media as well. Check them out, man. I just am a big fan. You said it best. We need more cartoon shirts.
Yes. I love a good cartoon shirt. And I love these people. I can't say enough good about these people without slighting anybody else. So I'm gonna let it drop after a minute. These people are utmost professionals. Every time I deal with these people, I'm impressed. Every time I see what these people wear to wrestling shows, I'm super impressed. And I'm not just talking about Diana. Diana is a fashion plate, as also probably the most beautiful woman involved in professional wrestling today. But the other two guys dress really nice and do a phenomenal job. I can't be impressed enough with these guys. Buy their shirts. Go check out our shirts. Good God, we've got some wonderful merchandise. I'm wearing a tapped out pot. I'm not a tapped out, but a pro wrestling t-shirt. Look at this. Look at this. Tom Pritchard. You know what I love the best about pro wrestling tees more than my friends having shirts, more than us having shirts? I'm a little fat kid that's living out his childhood dreams wearing t-shirts for my heroes that I could never get because my parents wouldn't buy them. And then I got fat and couldn't get them. Now I can get t-shirts for all of my heroes in my size at prowrestlingtees.com, and these things will last forever.
They are super strong. Check them out again, SHW Pod. The link will be, like I said, in the show notes, but also I will share it on social media. Like you said, three of the sharpest dressed people in indie wrestling, man, and three lovely people that we absolutely love to death, so we wanted to share them this week. Look, kind of a slow weekend for indie wrestling. I know there's a lot of lists. I shared the Rob Rod report. He had to do a written one. Our thoughts are with him, man. Rob Rod's got a lot of stuff going on. He had to go to the vet real late last night, so he had to do a written report. His vet for the pet.
Oh, I thought he was going himself.
No, he Rob Rod does not go to the vet when he's sick. No, he took a pet to the vet.
Well, I didn't know he has CVS. He's insurance.
He does have insurance, so they might say go to the vet.
I didn't know it was working. I worked for CVS for 11 years. I didn't know how they are now. So.
Gotcha. But no, he put a report up. I did share it. Lots of stuff going on, as far as Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama.
Yeah.
That
man keeps up with things. If you really want to know what's going on in local independent wrestling in the Southeast, Rob Rod probably does a better job than anyone I know.
Follow him on Facebook. Follow him on YouTube. The Rob Rod Report, and keeps you up to date on all the wrestling shows, 110%.
Yeah.
But we're a couple weeks away, so let's kind of go ahead and start setting the table. This weekend, I've got some stuff. I'm going to do some stuff with the grandkids.
Yep.
But the next weekend, we kind of start getting a little momentum into shows that are coming.
I am looking forward to Southern Fried. Is this going to be the week Drew Blood comes back? One of my favorite all-time wrestlers, trained by Adrian Street himself, Drew Blood. When he comes back to Southern Fried,
listen.
Oh my God, Nick.
Drew Blood is my wife's one of her. It might be her favorite wrestler in Georgia. It literally might. She loves some kids, and those kids know who they are. But Drew Blood, man, has a special place in my wife's heart. God. And so when I showed her the video the other day, she was like, "Oh my God, when's he coming back?" And I'm like, "Are you going to go to that show?" And she was like, "I might go to that one."
Nobody does it better. I'm sorry. Nobody. When he retired, I've got his book right over here. I've got to put it on my new shelves I put up the other day. Nobody does it better. And he wrote a book. He's an incredibly smart man. I never took care of myself as well as he did. And he's coming back. JBE is in a lot of trouble, Nick. Techi
Lots.
Mikuchi, not real happy. We saw Xavier Reyes in a weird spot
Not real
last
happy.
time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They
I
better
don't
right
know.
the ship before things fall apart.
And Hunter is just moving arrogance. If you could personify arrogance, it would be Hunter right now. It's such a great job of doing that. I mean, it's
Is it a job of doing it? Are you
okay. Yeah,
sure?
it might be him,
I
but
think it's just
whatever it
him.
is,
Yeah.
if they cast somebody for arrogance, if they got in a line at like a casting call, they picked the right one. He was built for the arrogance job. And
The Hunter James audition. He walks in. He does the air. They're like, okay, let's ready to do the scene. He goes. They're like, oh, great job doing the scene. And he was like, what do you mean? They're like, great acting. He's like, what are you talking about?
I'm not acting.
I'm not acting. They're like, oh, you just are that guy.
Yes.
Yes.
And Tristan with him just makes it more. He's hitting that old school gimmick, Dr.
He's
Brock.
the sprinkles on the cupcake.
Yes, exactly. We didn't mean to call you sprinkles, Tristan, but we do think the world of you and your sprinkles. I can't wait for Southern Fried, and then 2 weeks from now, a week after that, we might have the biggest weekend in Georgia wrestling, in my opinion, on the 8th, Southern Honor, and they always kill it. One of the most amazing shows. And then we have Hardcore Hell, the return of Anarchy Wrestling in the Action Building, the same place as Southern Honor Wrestling. Can you imagine what Anarchy Wrestling is going to look like with the amount of technology and production of the Action Building?
It's going to be different, that's for sure.
And the severity and the absolute violence and intensity of Anarchy Wrestling. Some of the matches they've announced are insane.
Yeah.
Nick, I am so stoked about this.
I'm stoked to see Rodney work the Action Building. It's the little things.
Rodney and YJ together. What's that going to be like?
Yeah.
Rodney and YJ together.
Yeah. It's a twist, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. Yeah. Massive weekend altogether, man. IWE down in Augusta, Hardcore Hell, same night, both corners of the state, super well represented with 2 massive shows. We're going to dive a little more into that next week because we'll have another, or even the week after. We've got a couple weeks to hype on those. I just kind of wanted to set the table for, especially for the second. It's a couple weeks coming out, for Southern Fried. It's a slow weekend, and I'm not saying there's nothing going on. Check out, again, the Rob Rod Report to find all your local shows. I just know I'm going to be tied up with the grandsons this weekend, so I wasn't going to be able to make it out to any shows.
I've got to do it now. My mother-in-law is coming into town and going to visit with us on the 14th. I have to pay now in advance, so I don't have to pay on the weekends when the wrestling is.
Yeah.
So I got to get that done. I'm just fascinated. I would never do it because of the controversy involved. I would love to see a 30 under 30 for independent wrestling. I think we'd probably have about 80% of them here in Georgia. Don't you? I mean, we've got an amazing amount of talent here.
I think so. That might be a segment on the show that we do.
I'd put it behind a paywall because I don't want some of these little fuckers saying it.
It's not that, man. I don't even. Look, all right, no. We'll discuss that next week. We'll have a conversation. But I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now.
I'm not doing it.
Running long. Again, behind the paywall, man. You never know. Look, before we get out of here, though, man, if we did do it, Myron, you're right. We'd probably put it behind the paywall over on YouTube, behind the paywall there. Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, turn your notifications on, become a member. Hell, get the show early. That would kind of be nice for you.
Yes.
Because it does, we record on Wednesdays, drop on Thursdays as usual. And that's not just on YouTube. That's also on all the podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, you name it. If it's a podcast platform, we're there. I found another one this week that I was like, I have never even heard of this platform. I have no idea. And I don't know how we are there, but we're glad that you're listening to it everywhere. Man, we appreciate it. Hey, and every now and then, like, throw us a review. We greatly appreciate that. That's awesome. It always kind of helps the algorithm, as they say,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It always kind of kicks it up a little bit. So,
But how do we get on all those platforms, Nick?
our friends over at Lipson, man, we've been pretty much, other than the short little hiccup, we've been with Lipson since day one. Go over to Lipson.com. There you see it on the screen in the bottom. Lipson, LIBSYN.com. Promo code TAPPED, just like us, TAPPED. And get up to 2 months for free, man. Sign
Can't
up.
beat that, man.
Yeah, they do all the distribution for you. They take care of all of it for you, man. It makes it so much easier. So I can't recommend it enough. We appreciate all of our sponsors between WrestleQuest and Lipson and Canacon. Every week we appreciate it. Hey, make sure you're supporting our sponsors to help keep the show going. We greatly appreciate it more than anything else. Anything else, Myron? I know you got something. I just want to set the table for you.
Whew, I think I might be out of breath. I might be out of topics. I'd hate to have to get my inhaler to finish the show. I feel good. I'm glad we did this. And I think we have an important date, Nick.
That is correct. I will look at my watch. Today is August 23rd. While we're recording, obviously the show drops on the 24th. August 26th is literally, so that would be this weekend. August 26th is the 7-year anniversary of the podcast.
7 years.
Yep.
7 years. Someone asked me the other day what the secret was to 7 years of podcasting. And I told them absolute stupidity.
Yep. I answer that same question all the time.
And also the fact that someone told me that this was stupid and it never worked. And I am stubborn, and I've devoted myself to this because I was going to prove somebody wrong or people wrong. And
my answer is we're just too stupid to know we should have quit a long time ago. Because what's the old saying in the wrestling business? If you just hang around long enough, you just kind of absorb right into it.
Yeah. Well, the wrestling business is fascinating. I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm an observer. Okay. I'm like the watcher from Marvel Comics is the way I see myself.
Big head.
I've got an incredibly large head. The only reason that my head looks almost reasonable is the size of my torso and my gut. But I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of doing this. I really appreciate you starting this, Nick, inviting me to be a part of it. I've had a great time. I've met some wonderful people. I've made some wonderful friends. If this were to stop today, I would still be going to these shows and I would still count these people as my friends. Probably wouldn't get in so many small privileged circles like I am now, but I love every minute of this.
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Yeah. So we appreciate all the people that have supported us. We hope that you guys appreciate the support we try to give to you. You brought it up. It was like, hey, when's this thing going to end? I always go, could be tomorrow. Could be 10 years from now. Could be 30 years from now. I have no idea.
When I run out of being full of shit, I will tell Nick, and then he will check to see if he's still. Well, Nick's ever been full of shit. He just likes to do this kind of stuff.
So, time will tell. We will see. But man, that's all I've got. It's been a heck of a 7 years so far. Yes. So we'll see what we got left.
The greatest tag team in professional wrestling podcasting.
Shits and Giggles.
Yes.
That's our tag team name, Shits and Giggles. If you don't believe me, ask Robert Fuller, right? That's what we were like, so.
God, I miss him. I hadn't seen him in forever.
But all right, man, that's all I've got. You got anything else before we get out of here?
I am tapped out.
Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.